The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a deep hum. Captain Lee Tae-min walked through them with steady steps, his black uniform crisp and clean. Behind him came Ambassador Park So-jin, her face calm but her hands slightly tight at her sides. They had been coming to this chamber for 15 years. Today might be the last time. The chamber was huge, with curved walls that rose up like the inside of a giant egg. 47 different species sat in their special chairs, each one designed for their unique bodies. The air smelled of different atmospheres mixing together, some sweet, some sharp, some with no smell at all. High Arbiter Moldok sat at the center, his crystal body catching the light and throwing rainbows across the walls. His voice came from speakers built into his chair, deep and echoing. The Council will now vote on Resolution 238744, the question of human membership in the Galactic Council. Captain Lee stood in the center of the room. All around him, alien eyes watched. Some were friendly, most were not. Counselor Vextar rose from his seat. The big lizard-like alien had scales that changed color when he was angry or excited. Right now, they were dark red. "Members of the Council," he said, his voice hissing through sharp teeth. "For 15 years we have watched the humans. For 15 years we have seen the same pattern. Violence, aggression, problems solved with weapons instead of words." Park So-jin wanted to stand up and argue. She wanted to remind everyone about the Kepler Station crisis, when human soldiers saved 3,000 civilians, or the trade war of 2381, when human negotiators stopped a conflict that could have killed millions. But Captain Lee put a gentle hand on her arm. They had agreed. They would let the Council speak first. "The humans claim they bring peace," Vextar continued. "But look at their methods. They send soldiers where we would send diplomats. They build weapons where we would build hospitals. They think with their fists, not their minds." A few counselors nodded. The Crystalline Collective always voted together, and they had never liked humanity's direct approach to problems. The Ethereal Union whispered among themselves, their gas form, bodies shimmering in their containment suits. Counselor Quintar, who looked like a giant ant with silver skin, clicked his mandibles. "The humans have served the Council well," he said carefully. "Their trade routes bring wealth to many worlds. Their technology has helped us all." "But at what cost?" Vextar snapped back. "They solved the Outer Rim pirate problem by destroying half the pirate fleets. They ended the Vega System rebellion by threatening to blockade their sun. Yes, they get results, but their way is not our way." Captain Lee remembered the Vega System. The rebels had been using civilian ships as shields, hiding behind innocent families while they attacked trade vessels. The human fleet had surrounded their planet and sent one simple message: "Stop, or we cut off your sunlight for 1 hour." The rebels had surrendered in minutes, no shots fired. No lives lost, but the Council saw only the threat, not the lives saved. High Arbiter Moldok's crystal body pulsed with soft blue light. "Captain Lee Tae-min, you may speak for humanity." Lee stepped forward. His voice was calm and clear. "Honored. Counselors, humanity has served this Council for 15 years. We have followed every law. We have honored every treaty. We have answered every call for help." He paused, looking around the chamber. "But we understand that our methods make some of you uncomfortable. We understand that you see us as too aggressive, too quick to use force." Some counselors shifted in their seats. They had expected anger, demands, maybe even threats. They had not expected understanding. "We want to stay," Lee continued. "We believe we can learn from you, and you from us. But if the Council decides we do not belong here, we will respect that decision." Vextar's scales flickered with surprise. "You would accept exile without protest?" "We would accept the will of the Council," Lee replied simply. The vote began. Each species announced their choice. The Aquatic Alliance voted to keep humanity. They remembered human engineers fixing their underwater cities after the Great Earthquake. The Insectoid Federation voted to expel them. They had never forgiven humanity for the quick end to their territorial war. One by one, the votes came in. The chamber fell silent as High Arbiter Moldoc counted. 31 votes for expulsion, he announced. 16 votes for continued membership. The resolution passes. Humanity's membership in the Galactic Council is hereby revoked. Ambassador Park felt her heart sink. 15 years of work. 15 years of building relationships, learning languages, understanding cultures, all gone in one vote. But Captain Lee just nodded slowly. "We understand," he said. His voice carried no anger, no sadness, no surprise. Humanity formally withdraws from all Council territories and agreements, effective immediately. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. Park recognized it, the master communication unit that connected to every human installation in Council space. "Ambassador Park will now transmit our withdrawal from all current agreements," Lee said. He handed her the device. Park's fingers moved quickly over the controls. In seconds, signals went out to human bases, trading posts, research stations, and diplomatic outposts across the galaxy. The withdrawal protocols that every human station had been required to prepare, but no one thought would ever be used. "It is done," she said quietly. High Arbiter Moldoc's crystal body brightened. "The Council wishes humanity well in their future endeavors. You have contributed much during your time with us." Captain Lee bowed slightly. "Thank you, High Arbiter." He turned to face the chamber one last time. "To all species who voted for us, we thank you. To those who voted against us, we understand your reasons. We hope the galaxy finds the peace you seek." He and Ambassador Park walked toward the great doors. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet. No one spoke. No one moved. The silence felt heavy, like the air before a storm. As they reached the doors, Counselor Zephyrin from the Aquatic Alliance called out, "Captain Lee, what will humanity do now?" Lee paused at the doorway but did not turn around. "What we have always done, Counselor. We will take care of our own." The doors closed behind them with a soft whisper. In the chamber, 47 species sat in uncomfortable silence. They had expected anger, threats, maybe even violence. They had been prepared for a fight. The quiet acceptance felt wrong somehow, like they had just made a terrible mistake. But it was too late now. The humans were gone. Admiral Kim Ji-woo stood on the bridge of the battleship Seoul, watching her fleet prepare to leave Council space. Around her, dozens of human ships powered up their engines. Some were warships like hers, sleek and deadly. Others were cargo vessels, research ships and hospital ships. All of them were going home. "Admiral," called Commander Yoon Da-yoon from her station. "All stations report ready. We can begin the withdrawal." Kim nodded. "Send the signal. Operation Silent Departure begins now." Across the galaxy, humans received the same message at the same time. Every trading post, every research station, every diplomatic office, every military base, the order was simple: leave. Take nothing that belongs to the Council. Break no laws. But leave completely. Dr. Choi Min-ho was working late in his laboratory on Kepler Research Station when the message came. He looked at the holographic display floating above his desk, showing the new medicine he had been developing. It could cure the blood sickness that killed thousands of Saurians every year. 3 more months of work, and it would be ready. He sighed and began deleting his files. "Doctor?" His assistant, a young insectoid named Clicktar, entered the lab. "Why are you destroying your work?" "We have to leave," Choi said softly. "All humans must leave Council space." Clicktar's antenna drooped. "But the cure for blood sickness. My cousin has that disease. You said you were close to finishing it." Choi paused, his hand over the delete button. Then he pressed it anyway. "I'm sorry," he said. "I truly am." On the trading station Harmony Point, manager Lim Hai-Wan was shutting down the largest supply hub in the galaxy. The station processed food shipments for 12 different star systems. Millions of beings depended on the food that came through her warehouses every day. "Ma'am," said her deputy, sweating nervously, "if we leave, these systems will have food shortages within a week. Some planets only have 3 days of emergency supplies." Lim looked out at the massive cargo ships being loaded with human goods. "Send messages to all the planetary governments. Tell them they have 72 hours to find new suppliers. After that, this station closes." "But ma'am, there are no other suppliers big enough to—" "That's not our problem anymore," Lim said, firmly, but her voice was sad. In the Outer Rim territories, Captain Bae Sung-ho was pulling his patrol ships back from their routes. For 10 years, his squadron had kept the space lanes safe from pirates. They knew every asteroid where criminals might hide. They had stopped hundreds of attacks, saved thousands of lives. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "we're getting distress calls from 17 different merchant ships. They're asking for escort through the Demon Nebula." Bae looked at the star map. The Demon Nebula was full of pirates. Without human patrols, merchant ships would be helpless there. "Send them our regrets," he said quietly. "Tell them to find other routes." "Sir, there are no other safe routes to the inner systems." "I know." On Nexus Prime, Counselor Zephyrin was starting to worry. His blue, fish-like body floated in his water-filled chamber as he watched the reports coming in. Human withdrawal was happening faster than anyone had expected. "They're just leaving," he said to his aide. "No arguments, no delays, no asking for more time." His aide, a nervous ethereal in a containment suit, flickered with concern. "Perhaps they are planning something? Humans are known for their tricks." "No," Zephyrin said slowly. "I think they're doing exactly what they said they would do. They're leaving us alone." The first problems started within hours. The Universal Translator system began having errors. Small ones at first, a word here, a phrase there. But the errors grew worse as time passed. The system had been designed by humans and maintained by human technicians. Without them, it was slowly breaking down. Trade routes that had worked perfectly for years suddenly hit problems. Human cargo ships had been the backbone of intersystem shipping. They carried more goods, faster and cheaper than anyone else. Without them, supply chains began to break. On the planet Sauros, Prime Minister Vec Lon was meeting with his advisors. "How long until the human trading posts are replaced?" he asked. His trade minister looked uncomfortable. "Sir, the humans handled 40% of all cargo movement between star systems. No single species can replace that capacity. We've reached out to the Crystalline Collective and the Insectoid Federation, but their ships are much smaller and slower." "How much slower?" "Food shipments that used to take 3 days will now take 2 weeks. If we can find ships to carry them at all." Veclon's scales turned pale green with worry. "What about our medical supplies? The blood sickness cure that the human doctor was developing?" "Gone, sir. Dr. Choi destroyed all his research when they left. In the Outer Rim, the first pirate attack happened just 18 hours after the human patrols withdrew. A family transport carrying refugees was attacked near the asteroid belt. The pirates took everything valuable and left the passengers stranded in space. The distress call reached the nearest Council military base 4 hours later. Their rescue ships took 12 hours to reach the transport. By then, 3 passengers had died from lack of oxygen. Commander Feltron of the Council Defense Force looked at the attack report with growing alarm. "How many human patrol routes are now undefended?" he asked his intelligence officer. "All of them, sir. The humans were responsible for security in 67% of Outer Rim space. And our forces can cover how much?" The intelligence officer hesitated. "Maybe 20%, sir, and only if we pull ships from other duties." Within 48 hours, pirate activity increased by 300%. On Nexus Prime, high. Arbiter Moldoc was receiving reports from across the galaxy. His crystal body, usually a calm blue, was flickering with stressed yellow light. "The economic disruption is worse than we calculated," reported the Council's chief economist, a multi-tentacled being called Squidron. Human traders weren't just carrying goods. They were the central hub that connected everyone else. Without them, the entire trade network is falling apart. "What about military security?" Moldoc asked. General Kremoth, a bear-like creature with 4 arms, growled unhappily. "The Outer Rim is becoming a war zone. Pirate fleets that humans used to contain are now raiding freely. 3 minor conflicts have started between species who used to have human mediators keeping peace." Councillor Vextar, who had led the vote to expel humanity, was notably quiet during the meeting. His red scales had faded to a worried brown. "Perhaps," suggested Councillor Zephyrin carefully, "we should consider asking the humans for help with this transition period." "Absolutely not," Vexatar snapped. "We voted them out because they were too violent. Now you want to invite them back at the first sign of trouble?" "But sir," said General Kremoth, "the trouble is happening because they're gone." The meeting fell silent. Outside the council chambers, a news report was playing on the public screens. It showed human ships leaving the last council station, their formations perfect and orderly. At the bottom of the screen, text scrolled by. "Human exodus 95% complete. No incidents reported, no property damaged, no contracts broken." The silence they left behind was growing louder every hour. 2 months after the humans left, Trade Minister Lim Hai-Wan was sitting in her new office on New Seoul, the human colony that had become their temporary capital. She was reading reports from across the galaxy, and none of them were good. "The Crystalline Collective is asking for food aid," her assistant reported. "Their colony worlds are running out of grain shipments." Lim shook her head. "We warned them this would happen." "What about the Insectoid Federation?" "They're offering to pay triple the normal rate if we'll restart shipments to their outer colonies." "And our answer?" "The same as always. We're not part of the Council anymore. They need to solve their own problems." On the planet Kepler 442b, families were starting to go hungry. The planet produced minerals and technology, but it couldn't grow enough food for its 3 billion people. They had always traded their goods for food from agricultural worlds, with human cargo ships carrying everything back and forth. Now those ships were gone. Governor Tickalon called an emergency meeting. His thin, gray body shook with worry as he spoke to his advisors. "How long can our food reserves last?" 6 weeks, maybe 8 if we start rationing, replied his agriculture minister. "And when will new supply ships arrive?" The minister looked down at his notes. "The Saurians promised to send ships, but their vessels are much smaller than human cargo ships. They can only carry 1/10 the food we need. The first delivery won't arrive for 3 months. Ticklon's head tentacles drooped. "So we're going to starve." "Not all of us," the minister said quietly, "but many will. In the Outer Rim, Captain." Bae Sung-ho was having a very different kind of problem. His patrol ships were now protecting human colonies and trade routes, but they kept running into pirate fleets that were much bigger and bolder than before. "Captain," reported his tactical officer Kim Soo-jin, "we've got 15 pirate ships attacking a merchant convoy near the Broken Moon system." 15? Bae was surprised. 2 months ago, we never saw more than 3 or 4 pirates working together. "They're getting organized, sir. Without our patrols in council space, they've had time to build up their fleets." Bae looked at the tactical display. The pirate force was huge, bigger than anything he'd seen in 10 years of patrol duty. "Set course for the Broken Moon. Full speed." The battle was intense, but short. Human ships were faster and better armed than pirate vessels. Bae's squadron destroyed 8 pirate ships and scared off the rest. The merchant convoy was saved, but as Bae watched the pirates retreat, He felt worried. "They'll just go back to raiding Council space," he told Kim Soo-jin. "And those merchant ships they were attacking, they weren't human ships. No, sir. They were Aquatic Alliance traders trying to deliver medical supplies to a Saurian colony. So we just saved Council citizens who aren't supposed to be our problem anymore." Kim Soo-jin nodded. "What are your orders, sir?" Bei thought about it. "We protect human interests only. If Council ships get attacked in Council space, that's not our concern." But he didn't feel good about saying it. On Nexus Prime, the Council was in crisis mode. Emergency sessions were being held every day. The big chamber that used to echo with debate was now filled with desperate voices asking for help. Councillor Quintar was reading from a long list of problems. Food riots on 12 worlds. Pirate attacks up 400%. Trade routes failing. 3 wars starting because there's no one to mediate disputes. High Arbiter. Maldok's crystal body was flickering between colors. Blue for sadness, yellow for stress, red for anger. How did we not see this coming? "Because we were idiots," said Councillor Zephyrin bluntly. His usual politeness was gone. The humans were holding everything together, and we threw them out because we didn't like their methods. Councillor Vextar's scales were now a sickly green color. He had been very quiet during recent meetings. "We made our decision based on principle," he said weakly. "The humans were too violent." "Were they?" Zephyrin's voice was sharp. "When was the last time humans actually started a war? When was the last time they attacked anyone who wasn't attacking someone else first?" The chamber fell silent. No one could think of an answer. General Kremoth stood up, his 4 arms waving in frustration. "I've been looking at the military reports from the past 15 years. Do you know what I found? The humans stopped 14 major wars before they started. They prevented 6 genocides. They captured or killed over 3,000 pirates. And they did it all so quietly that most of us never even knew it was happening." "That's impossible," Vextar protested. "We would have known about military actions that big." "Would we?" Kremoth pulled up a holographic display. "Look at this. The Vega Rebellion. Official council records say it ended when the rebels agreed to negotiate, but I found classified reports from our intelligence services. The humans had surrounded the rebel planet and were ready to cut off their sunlight. The rebels surrendered because they knew humanity would do it." More data appeared on the display. The Altair Pirate War. Official records say the pirates just disappeared. The truth? A human black operations team destroyed their main base and scattered the survivors. The Centauri trade dispute. The Proxima colony crisis. The Tau Ceti plague response. Every single one was solved by human action, not council diplomacy. Councillor Quintar's mandibles clicked nervously. "Are you saying the council has been taking credit for human work?" "I'm saying the humans let us take credit," Kremoth replied. "They did the hard, dangerous, violent work in the shadows. Then they let us pretend we'd solved everything with peaceful negotiation." High Arbiter Maldok's crystal body went completely white, a color that meant shock. Why would they do that? "Because they wanted to be part of something bigger," Zephyrin said quietly. "They wanted to belong to a peaceful galactic community, so they took care of the violence and let us believe we lived in a peaceful universe." The chamber was dead silent for a long moment. Then Vextar spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "What have we done?" The answer came in the form of an urgent alert. The council chamber's communication system lit up with emergency signals, dozens of them, all marked as critical priority. "The Demon Nebula merchant route is completely shut down," reported the communications officer. "Pirate fleets are too strong for normal escorts. 7 colony worlds will run out of food within the month." "The Saurian insectoid border dispute just turned violent," came another report. "Both sides are mobilizing their fleets. 3 more systems are asking for emergency food aid. The translation system just failed completely in the Outer Rim. 4 species can't communicate with each other anymore." High Arbiter Moldoc looked around the chamber at the panicked faces of his fellow counselors. For the first time in his 300-year life, he didn't know what to do. Perhaps, he said slowly, it's time to send a message to the humans. A request for assistance. You want to crawl back to them begging for help? Vexitar asked. I want to save the galaxy from collapsing, Moldoc replied. The vote was quick and unanimous. A formal request for aid would be sent to human leadership. But when the message reached New Seoul, the response was even quicker. President Shin Yu-jin's reply was polite and brief. Humanity appreciates the Council's request for assistance. However, we are no longer members of the Galactic Council, and therefore cannot involve ourselves in Council affairs. We wish you success in resolving these challenges. The message was signed with a simple phrase that would haunt the Council for months to come. You wanted us gone. Now you have what you asked for. 6 months after the humans left, President Shin Yu-jin was having breakfast in her office on New Seoul when the emergency call came in. Her aide, Lieutenant Park Min-seo, burst through the door without knocking. Madam President, he said, breathing hard. The Saurian homeworld is under attack, Shin looked up from her coffee. By whom? The Void Swarm, ma'am. They broke through the outer defense lines 3 hours ago. The Saurian fleet is scattered. Their government is asking everyone for help. Shin was quiet for a moment. The Void Swarm was an ancient enemy. Machines left over from some long dead. Civilization that attacked anything living. For 50 years they had been contained in the Dark Zone, far from inhabited space. How did they get past the early warning systems? She asked. Park Min-seo looked uncomfortable. There are no early warning systems anymore, ma'am. The humans used to monitor the Dark Zone borders. When we left Council space, we stopped watching. Shin nodded slowly. She had known this day would come. What's the Council doing? They sent their fleet. But it's not enough. The Void Swarm has grown much larger since the last time anyone fought them. They're asking all member species for emergency military aid. And they haven't asked us? No, ma'am. Not directly. But there are unofficial messages coming through back channels. Some council members want to approach us privately. Shin looked out her window at the bustling streets of New Geneva City. Human colonies were thriving. Without the council's rules and regulations, human trade and technology were advancing faster than ever. But she knew that wouldn't matter if the Void Swarm broke free and started consuming everything in the galaxy. Tell our fleet commanders to be ready, she said. But we don't move unless they officially ask. On the Saurian homeworld, Prime Minister Veclon was watching his world burn. The massive insect-like machines of the Void Swarm had landed in 12 cities. Their energy weapons were melting buildings and turning the ground to glass. Millions of his people were dead or running for their lives. How long until the Council fleet arrives? He asked his military advisor. 6 hours, sir. Maybe 8. And how long until they overrun the capital? The advisor looked at his tactical display. The mechanical monsters were moving steadily toward the government district, destroying everything in their path. 3 hours, sir. Veclon closed his eyes. His people were dying, and there was nothing he could do to save them. The Saurian military was strong, but they had never faced anything like the Void Swarm. Their weapons barely scratched the machine's armor. Sir, said his communications officer hesitantly, we're getting an unofficial message from Councillor Zephyrin. He says there might be another option. What option? The humans, sir. Their military technology is more advanced than ours. If anyone could fight the Void Swarm, it would be them. Veclon's scales turned dark with shame. He had been one of the councillors who voted to expel humanity. Now he was thinking about begging them for help. Send the message, he said quietly. On Nexus Prime, Councillor Vexistar was pacing back and forth in his private chambers. His scales had been gray for weeks now, the color of deep stress and fear. His aide watched nervously as the big lizard wore a path in the floor. The economic reports, sir? The aide asked. 12 systems facing starvation, Vextar replied, without stopping his pacing. The entire outer rim under pirate control. Trade down 80%. 3 species at war with each other. And now the Void Swarm is loose. Perhaps it's time to formally request human assistance? Vextar stopped pacing and stared at his aide. I led the vote to throw them out. How can I ask them to come back and save us? Because people are dying, sir. Vextar was quiet for a long time. Then he activated his communication system. Get me a secure channel to New Seoul, he said. I need to speak to President Shin. The call took an hour to arrange. When President Shin's face appeared on the holographic display, she looked calm and professional. Nothing like the desperate alien who was calling her. Counselor Vexitar, she said politely. This is unexpected. Vexitar's pride crumbled. President Shin, I need to tell you something. We made a terrible mistake. Oh? When we expelled humanity from the Council, we thought we were getting rid of a violent, aggressive species. We thought the galaxy would be more peaceful without you. Shin waited patiently for him to continue. We were wrong, Vextar said, his voice breaking. Everything is falling apart. People are starving. Pirates are raiding everywhere. Wars are starting. And now the Void Swarm is attacking the Saurian homeworld, and we don't know how to stop them. I see, Shin replied calmly. We need your help, Vextar said. The words felt like poison in his mouth, but he forced them out. Please. Billions of people are going to die if the Void Swarm isn't stopped. Shin was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Counselor, I think you should speak to someone else about this. Someone who knows more about what humanity was really doing in Council space. The connection ended, and a new face appeared on Vexitar's screen. It was an older human man with gray hair and tired eyes. Director Nam Woo-jin, head of human intelligence. Services, Counselor Vextar, Nam said with a slight smile. I've been waiting for this call. Waiting? We knew this would happen eventually. The Void Swarm, I mean. We'd been tracking their movement patterns for 20 years. They were building up for a major breakout. Vextar felt cold suddenly. You knew they were coming? We knew they were coming, and we were ready for them. Our deep space monitoring stations had early warning systems in place. Our rapid response fleets were positioned to intercept any breakout attempts. We had battle plans, weapon systems, and containment protocols. Ready. Had. We dismantled everything when we left Council space, Nam said simply. The monitoring stations are dark. The response fleets are protecting human colonies now. The weapon systems are locked away. Vextar stared at the human in horror. You let this happen? No, Nam said firmly. You let this happen. You threw us out, remember? The Void Swarm was your problem the moment you decided humanity was too dangerous to be part of the Council. But people are dying. People have been dying for 6 months, Nam replied. Starvation on 12 worlds, pirate raids killing thousands, border wars, all problems that humans used to handle quietly, so the Council could pretend the galaxy was peaceful. Nam leaned forward on his screen. Do you want to know the truth, Counselor? For 15 years, humanity fought a secret war to keep the galaxy safe. We stopped threats before they became crises. We prevented conflicts before they became wars. We eliminated dangers before they became disasters. Why didn't you tell us? Because you didn't want to know. You wanted to believe that diplomacy and good intentions could solve everything. So we let you believe it. We did the dirty work in the shadows and let you take credit for the peace. Vextar felt sick. How much did we not know? Nam activated. A holographic display filled with files and reports. The Kepler incident that almost started a war between 3 species. Human Black Ops teams eliminated the terrorists who were planning false flag attacks. The Vega mining crisis that could have caused economic collapse. Human negotiators made secret deals with crime syndicates to prevent it. The Altair plague that could have killed millions. Human researchers developed the cure and gave it away for free, but let council doctors take the credit. More files appeared on the display. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Every peaceful resolution you celebrated, every diplomatic success you praised, every crisis that somehow solved itself, humanity was involved. We were the violent species you didn't want in your peaceful galaxy. But we were also the reason your galaxy stayed peaceful. Vextar's scales had turned white, the color of shock and despair. What do we do now? Now you have a choice, Nam said. You can keep pretending that you don't need us and watch the galaxy burn. Or you can admit that maybe, just maybe, sometimes violence is necessary to protect peace. The communication ended, leaving Vexatar alone with the truth. Outside his window, emergency ships were racing toward the Saurian system, too few and too late to make a difference. 1 year after the humans left, High Arbiter Moldoc stood in the ruins of what used to be the greatest achievement in galactic history. The Andromeda Gate, a massive ring of metal and energy that connected distant parts of the galaxy, was dark and silent. For 3 months, it had been shutting down piece by piece. Now, it was completely dead. How many systems are cut off? He asked engineer Teknar, a small creature with 6 arms who had been trying to fix the gate for weeks. 15% of council space, Teknar replied, his voice tired and defeated. 43 star systems, over 200 billion people. Moldoc's crystal body flickered with deep blue sadness. And we can't fix it? Sir, the quantum stabilizers use human hybrid technology. We don't understand how they work. We tried copying the design from other gates, but every time we power them up, they explode. What about the human technicians who used to maintain it? They took all their knowledge with them, sir. The maintenance records are encrypted with codes we can't break. Moldoc looked at the dead gate one more time. Each ring was the size of a small moon, covered in technology that had taken 50 years to build. Now it was just expensive scrap metal. Prepare my ship, he said quietly. I'm going to New Sol. The journey to human space took 3 days. Moldoc traveled alone except for his pilot in a small diplomatic vessel that wouldn't seem threatening. He had sent a message ahead asking for permission to meet with human leadership. The response had been polite, but cold. High Arbiter Moldoc is welcome to visit New Sol. However, no official meetings are scheduled. When his ship landed at the New Geneva spaceport, Moldoc was surprised by what he saw. The human colony was thriving. New buildings rose into the sky like crystal spears. Ships from dozens of different species filled the landing bays. Not council species, but independent worlds and colonies that had started trading directly with humans. A young, human woman in a dark blue uniform met him at the landing pad. High Arbiter Moldoc? I'm Lieutenant Park Minseo. President Shin will see you now. They traveled through the city in a ground vehicle. Moldoc stared out the windows in amazement. The streets were clean and busy. Markets sold goods from across the galaxy. Children from different species played together in parks. It looked like what the Council had always claimed to be, a place where different beings lived together in peace. You've built something beautiful here, he said to Lieutenant Park. Thank you, sir. President Shin says that when people aren't trying to control each other, they usually get along fine. The presidential palace was smaller than Moldoc had expected. It looked more like a comfortable home than a government building. President Shin Yu-jin met him in a simple office with large windows that looked out over the city. High Arbiter, she said, standing to greet him. You've come a long way. President Shin, I've come to ask for your help. Shin gestured to a chair designed for his crystal body. Please sit. Tell me what's wrong. Moldoc settled into the chair, his body dim with exhaustion. Everything is wrong. The galaxy is falling apart. Billions are dead or dying. The Andromeda Gate is destroyed. Half the outer rim is controlled by pirates. The Saurian homeworld is in ruins. 3 species are at war. The economic system has collapsed. Shin listened without interrupting. We know, now that humanity was holding everything together, Muldock continued. We know that you were preventing disasters, stopping wars, maintaining the technology that kept civilization running. We threw you out because we thought you were too violent. But we were the violent ones. We were violent toward you. Yes, Shin said simply. I've come to ask humanity to rejoin the Council. We need you. The galaxy needs you. Shin was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, High Arbiter, let me ask you something. When you voted to expel humanity, what did you hope to achieve? We wanted peace. We wanted a galaxy where problems were solved with words, not weapons. And how has that worked out? Muldock's crystal body flickered with shame. It hasn't. Without humans to handle the threats quietly, everything we feared came true. The violence we tried to avoid is everywhere now. So you understand that sometimes violence is necessary to prevent greater violence? Yes. And you understand that humanity was never the problem? We were the solution? Yes. Shin stood up and walked to her window. Outside, human children were playing with young insectoids and Aquatic Alliance younglings. The Council expelled us because our methods made you uncomfortable. You wanted the results of our work, but you didn't want to admit that those results sometimes required force. We were wrong. Yes, you were. Shin turned back to face him. But the real question is, what are you willing to do to fix it? Muldock straightened in his chair. Anything. Name your terms. Before we talk about terms, you need to understand something. Humanity has changed in the past year. We're not the same species that quietly accepted your judgment and walked away. As if, summoned by her words, the office door opened. Captain Lee Tae-min entered, but he wasn't the same man who had left the council chambers a year ago. His hair was grayer, his face harder. Behind him came Fleet Admiral Go Yun-ji, a woman whose reputation for tactical brilliance was known throughout the galaxy. High Arbiter, Lee said with a slight nod. It's been a while. Captain Lee. I hoped I might see you here. It's Admiral Lee now, Shin said. He's the Supreme Commander of the Human Defense Force. Muldock noticed that both humans wore different uniforms than before. The old blue diplomatic uniforms were gone, replaced by black military dress with silver insignia. These were not the humans who had once asked politely to be part of the galactic community. These were conquerors who had built their own empire. Admiral Lee, Muldock said carefully, I've come to ask humanity to help save the galaxy. Lee exchanged a look with Admiral Go. High Arbiter, the galaxy is exactly what the Council wanted it to be, a place where humans have no influence, no responsibility, and no authority. But people are dying. People have been dying for a year, Go said coldly. Where was the Council's concern when human colonies were attacked by pirates because we couldn't patrol Council space anymore? Where was your help when independent worlds asked us for protection because you couldn't provide it? Shin returned to her desk. High Arbiter, humanity will consider rejoining the galactic community. But not as junior members begging for acceptance, not as the species you tolerate because you need our services. She pressed a button, and a holographic document appeared in the air between them. These are our conditions, she said. Muldock read the terms, and his crystal body went completely white with shock. You want equal status with the founding species? Permanent seats on all major committees? Veto power over military decisions? Control of all inter-system security operations? We want recognition of what we actually are, Lee said. The species that keeps the galaxy running. The species that prevents the wars you're too proud to admit are necessary. And if the Council refuses? Shin smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then you continue to enjoy the peaceful galaxy you created by expelling us. A galaxy where problems are solved. with diplomacy and good intentions. How's that working out for you? Moldoc looked at the terms again. Everything humanity was asking for, they had already been doing in secret. The only difference was that now they wanted credit for it. I'll need to discuss this with the full council. Of course, Shin said. But understand, this offer expires in 30 days. After that, humanity will continue building our own civilization. We'll protect our allies and trade partners. But the council species will be on their own. And the Void Swarm? Still your problem, Admiral Go said. Unless you accept our terms. As Moldoc prepared to leave, he had one more question. Why? Are you willing to help at all? After everything we did to you? President Shin was quiet for a moment. Because we're human, she said finally. Even after you threw us out, even after you let billions die rather than admit you needed us, we still can't stand by and watch the galaxy burn. That's why you need us, High Arbiter. Not because we're violent, but because we care enough to do the violent things that keep everyone else safe. 3 weeks later, High Arbiter Moldoc stood once again in the council chambers. But this time, he wasn't presiding over the meeting. He was explaining to 46 species why they had no choice but to accept humanity's terms. The vote was unanimous. Captain Lee Tae-min, now Admiral Lee, walked back into the chamber he had left in silence a year ago. But this time, he didn't stand in the center, asking for humanity's place in the galaxy. He sat at the high table with the founding species and told the galaxy what humanity was going to do to save it. The silence that had once been dismissive was now respectful, fearful, and absolute. Humanity had returned, but not as the species that had left. They had returned as the species the galaxy could not survive without.